Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2024 release, The Devil's Bath. It's a Shudder exclusive, and it's coming to Shudder on Friday, June 28th, so this is a no-spoiler review. I'm off the bat going to pretty highly recommend this one. I do think it's one people should see, but I will also throw out there, it is slow. It is a film that is 2 hours. It definitely feels like it should not be 2 hours. I really do wish they would have cut this thing down a lot, but the payoff is really good, in my opinion, and this is one of those films that if you allow it to stick with you and you just ruminate about things, it is effective. Very, very effective, and it has a lot to say, and I commend the filmmakers for going where they went. So, talk more about that. The Devil's Bath, again, written and directed by Severin, Fiala and Veronika, Franz, who also did Goodnight Mommy, which I have not seen but heard is pretty good. The Field Guide to Evil, also have not seen, and The Lodge, which I did see The Lodge. There are some, logical issues with the story of The Lodge, but overall, I really enjoyed that film, and actually, I believe I have a review for it on my channel, so you can find that out. And I think that's also not a no-spoiler review. I think it was a more in-depth one. Excuse me. This is an Austrian/German production. The filmmakers are from Austria, so yes, there are subtitles to the film because it's not in English, but that said, there is not a whole lot of dialogue in this. For it being like 2 hours, there isn't that much dialogue. So if you don't like subtitles, you can still make it through this film no problem, in my opinion. You can do it. Again, Shudder exclusive, coming Friday, June 28th. I do have to give trigger warnings. There is some animal cruelty in this film. Just going to put that out there. There is also kids in bad situations at times that is very distressing for certain people. So if those are things that are very hard for you, just know. Trigger warning. You might want to avoid. Anyway, synopsis. This is about a woman. Well, it takes place back in the 1750s. Well, in the year 1750. It literally says in the beginning 1750. So it takes a woman who's their main focus, who is getting married. She's thinking about, going to start a family with my husband. But there's a lot of pressure she's going through. She's having a lot of struggles in life. And there's this kind of societal issue of looking at her and saying, what kind of wife is she going to be? Her husband's looking at her like that. Her family members are looking at her like that. And the whole village she lives in, which is a small village that's pretty isolated, very rural, is also looking at her like that. And it gives you the idea that that's how all women are kind of looked at back then, which probably was pretty true. So it's kind of about that situation, and it's horror, so things obviously devolve since things become problematic. I don't want to say much past that for story, because I don't want to give stuff away, because I think you should just watch it. Again, film takes place in 1750, and it is based on historical documents. They actually say that in the beginning when they say what year it is. So another thing about this film, I really have to highly commend the filmmakers for putting this level of work in. They cover a lot of stuff in a very what feels like realistic way for what this time period was, and so you feel it. Like, it feels like you're getting that glimpse into 1750, at least from the perspective of this main character. So I think they did a great job with that. The very beginning of it will be tough for some people. There are actually two particular things that will be tough for people, and that goes back to those trigger warnings that I gave you, but that's not all. It's not just in the beginning for those trigger warnings. I think each of those trigger warnings has two instances in the film. One in the beginning and one much further on. So just know. How things play out early, and with a runtime of 2 hours, you get the sense that the pacing is not going to be great. Accurate. The pacing is not good for this film. I really think that they should have hacked off at least a half an hour of this movie, and it could have been really fantastic in my opinion, but it moves so ridiculously slowly that there's no momentum. I mean, things don't really get going until an hour and 20 minutes in. Now, once you hit that hour and 20 minute mark, that's when you're getting all that payoff. So you get like 40 minutes of some quite good payoff, in my opinion. But the first hour and 20 minutes is, you're just kind of like, what are we doing here? Is there even going to be a point to this? Like, what is our end game? So just know, because you're watching this, it gets there. So it is worth the time at this point, but I really wish they would have released a like reverse director's cut, basically, where they're just like, do you want all this extra crap that we don't need cut out of it? I mean, the positive though is that, well, first of all, positive is if you're a person who doesn't mind a movie that really takes its time, then you're going to enjoy this film for the most part. But the other positive is, when these scenes are going on too long, it at least looks good. The scenery is very interesting. The set design is interesting. The costuming, like I said, like you feel that it's 1750. Also, it's shot very well, so that also helps. But you know, it's also drab color palette for the most part, so there's not enough color-wise to look at and like look interesting. But at the same time, it makes sense because it's not like a joyful, fun, lighthearted movie. They did a nice job of capturing the time period, but the scenes are entirely too long, like I was talking about. They did do a really good job with the natural lighting aspect of this film because it is 1750, it has to look like they're not using like modern lighting for this film, that things are lit by, fire, literally. Like that was all they had, or sunlight. And I think they did a really good job of making that look realistic without hitting this issue of things being too dark. So really good job on that. There's some very pretty scenery that's shot well, and the rural setting is used very well to convey isolation. Like I said, this is like a very rural, small community that's being focused on, and that really does help with the story. It really especially enhances one aspect of it, which, obviously I'm not going to say because I don't want to ruin it, but good job on that. There isn't a lot of dialogue in the film, which does shift the focus to the atmosphere, the scenery, and the score. And the score is very good. And when you put all those things together, the atmosphere, the scenery, the score, which obviously the score and the scenery play into the overall atmosphere, plus the performances, it really has a particular feeling to it that helps with the payoff of the film. And it is also one of those films where, at least for me, I was feeling not great about the movie and feeling relatively disinterested for that hour and 20 minutes. But then I started really being into it after that. And so in retrospect, after thinking about how they ended the film and everything, I'm thinking back to the slower parts and thinking, I guess it wasn't that bad, but still, you can cut that down. Really good performances by the whole cast. Very well acted film, especially Anya. I'm not going to say this well, I guarantee, but I'll try. Anya Plash. I can spell it for you. First name Anja, and the last name is Plaschg. So Anya Plash is probably the best way I'd say it. I feel like it's not a bad guess. Phenomenal performance. She plays the main character, who is Agnes is the name, and very demanding role. And she nails this very demanding role. I found myself watching this and being like, man, that must have been really tough for her. That's a hard job. I hope she got paid relatively well. Doesn't really get going until about the hour and 20 minute mark. Like I said, they go somewhere I didn't see coming, and I commend them for doing this. I say that in the aspect of it's mainly something that I didn't think they would necessarily have the guts to do in this film, and they did it. And it's something that a lot of filmmakers would not do. And yeah, you just need to watch to find out. So when those types of things happen in film, I'm always like, oh, they did this. They went there. Okay, I commend them for being brave enough to do that. And it's effective. It's very effective. The ending is not for everyone, but it worked very well for me personally. And again, I think if this is something that you'll allow yourself to kind of think about and think about the impact of it, think about what the filmmakers are really trying to say with this film, it can play extremely well for you. There also is some post-text to the film that you should 100% read, because it does help guide you to what the filmmakers are really trying to focus on here, what they're really trying to say. So very, very important in my opinion. So I'm going to give you my star rating, and then I'll talk about some thematic things for people who don't want to know the thematic stuff, because I know some people can view those as spoilers. So out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm going to go with 4 stars on this one. But because of those horrible pacing issues, I was thinking about 3.5 stars at one point. So just know that realistically, if I officially did quarters, it'd be 3.75. But for the purposes of this video, 4 stars. It's definitely worth watching. All right, so now I'm going to move on to oh, well, actually, if people want to comment before you shut it off, if you don't want the thematic stuff, go ahead and comment down here. We can talk spoilers if you want to. If you've seen it, give me your opinion on the film, and we can talk about that. Always interested in hearing differing opinions on these films. Also, subscribe, do the thumbs up, hit the notification bell button, all that jazz. Anyway, now to the thematic stuff. This is a good representation of a time when a woman's worth was primarily based on her ability to have children, and how bad that existence could end up being because of that. Basically, women being treated as things, in a sense, and being expected to act a certain way. Still kind of prescient today, unfortunately. I think it kind of always has been, and I think that might be part of the aim of these filmmakers. The film also plays to mental health and how horribly it has always been handled by society. Now, obviously, in 1750, handled a lot worse. Nowadays, still not handled very well at all. We still have so far to go, and me, obviously, being a person who's very focused on the mental health aspect of film and everyday life, because I do have mental health struggles with anxiety and depression at times. Very into that type of stuff, in a sense. So this film spoke to me on those levels. I think it's also very interesting the way they chose to go about talking about that in the film. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. Like I said, comments, subscribe, all that stuff. Really appreciate it. Really always appreciate people's time to actually put their effort into watching these videos. It is a humbling experience for me, knowing that there are actually people out there who watch this stuff, even though I'm just some dude talking to a camera. But thank you so much, and until next time, keep it brutal.